right, we are good to go.
All right, well, I'll kick off and just introduce myself real quick. I'm Mike Flynn, and I'm a Youth Service Center Coordinator in Estill County and currently serving on the Coalition's executive board as the secretary of the board, and I also serve on the Public Policy Committee.
I am Tina Cook, and I am a Youth Service Center Coordinator at Glasgow Middle School, and I currently serve as your president for the coalition. Is Marianne not going to introduce herself? We'll keep on moving.
I
will tell you.
can. I'm Marianne Jennings, and I am the tech person for today's, and I'll also be helping answer any questions that you may have. So glad to see everybody.
And I'll just break the ice here. I have never done a live webinar. This is my first. I've done webinars, but they've always been pre-recorded. So this is a first, and I cannot promise people will still not come in my door, even though it's shut with a note. So we'll run with this. So today, part of the advocating and lobbying session goals, we're going to be able to define both of these at the conclusion. We're going to be explaining grassroots and direct lobbying and telling the difference of those two, sharing our FRYSC Coalition efforts on both of these, as well as introducing the legislative toolkit and making sure you know where to find that on our webpage. And we will be learning what your role is as a coordinator in this process and what that looks like for you. So to get us started, we are going to start with a poll, and we want to know, do you know the difference between advocating and lobbying? And if you don't, that's okay. That's why we're here today. Also have some coming into the chat box on the answers as well. So we're about split 50-50. Half of us know the difference and the other half do not. So hopefully, and not hopefully, by the end of this, you will know the difference and you'll be able to gain that knowledge. So we will keep moving right along and begin with defining the two terms, starting us here. So advocacy is providing information about center efforts. This could be data that shows gaps in services, or information about services and strategies that your center is implementing. It can be sharing information about why FRYSC is important, as well as why students and families are better off because of FRYSC in the school. It's important to remember that not all advocacy work is lobbying, but all lobbying is advocacy work at some capacity. So when you think about that, advocacy is defined as many actions that speak in favor of, recommends, argues for a cause, supports or defends, or pleads on behalf of others. So advocating is just telling your story. Like, what are you doing? What is your center doing? And why? Examples of this could look like your center newsletter, invitations to your center events. I always tell people when I'm also presenting at NCO, go ahead and like befriend your legislators on social media. Let them know you're there. That way they see you not just as your center page, but you personally too, so they can connect on that. Because obviously we share a lot of what we do on our personal page as well. That is like advocating. That is them seeing you, your center's work firsthand and what you're doing. Lobbying is influencing change. So anytime you're asking for change, funding, anything, that is lobbying. So lobbying is done in many different ways, by many different types of people, association and organized groups, including individuals in the private sector, corporations, fellow legislator or government officials. Lobbyists may be among a legislator's constituents, meaning a voter or a block of voters within his or her electoral district. That's what we mean by constituents. This may engage in lobbying as a business. Professional lobbyists are people whose business is trying to influence legislation on behalf of a group or individual who hires them. Individuals and nonprofit organizations can also lobby as an act of volunteering or a small part of their normal job. I'm going to stop and pause right there, because that's a lot when you start talking about lobbying. Does anybody have any questions? We good? Okay, if nobody has any questions, we'll keep moving. So examples of lobbying is like calls to action. So when you get something that is pushed out from Michael Jones, the coalition, for a call to action, that is lobbying. Meeting with legislators to discuss increased funding or change, that is all lobbying. It's important to remember when we start talking about lobbying, that is when a call to action goes out is that those kind of things are done from your personal email and personal accounts on your personal time. That's just good practice to make sure that you are doing at all times. And I actually got ahead of myself because this is the next one. So comparing advocacy and lobbying. When you are advocating, you are sharing data about your center. When you are lobbying, you are sharing data with legislators and asking them to create a program to address the data you have just shared. Again, so you're asking for change. Sharing the funding level for FRYSC, you are advocating. Sharing funding level, asking for additional funds, then becomes lobbying. Again, it goes back to just the request of asking for change or funding. That's when it turns into lobby. And just to remember, it is important to remember that anyone can advocate. And you can use your school email to share any kind of information that when you're advocating. But again, I will reemphasize the fact that when you are lobbying, just make sure that you're on personal device, personal email, personal time, not on work time. Now we will talk more about grassroots and direct lobbying and knowing the difference of those two and why they are actually both important as well. So direct lobbying is the FRYSC Coalition organization and meets annual with key legislators. The FRYSC Coalition president sending out a letter to key legislators asking them to restore funding that has been cut. That is direct lobbying. Grassroots lobbying is ultimately more vital, I say, because this is where you are bringing in important decision makers, such as your advisory council, your staff, your community members, and you're asking them to contact legislators about the funding levels. this is a way that shows legislators how many people support the coalition message that has been sent out. If constituents aren't letting their legislators know that the coalition message is valid and important, it's not as powerful. The big thing, like we always say, there's always power in numbers. So the more people that is reaching out and connecting and contacting the legislators about the message we are sending, lets them know that this is important to the centers and it does matter. And they'll pay more attention to that as well when they are getting it in large numbers. So grassroots lobbying is vital to the direct lobbying approach to make sure they understand that impact. Social media campaigns, asking people to contact legislators about funding or special topics. So all that kind of falls under grassroots. But again, without the grassroots lobbying, we're not as effective just with direct lobbying. I feel like I'm talking super fast too. So, FRYSC efforts for the 2026 legislative session. We will be looking at a number of things as we move into this legislative session. One being that we will be celebrating 35 years of FRYSC with a capital event. There will be more information that will come on this later. We don't have a exact plan yet. We got many ideas, so hopefully that'll be rolling out soon. FRYSC Page Days. Now, while the Capitol is undergoing extensive renovation for a number of years, legislative page days will look different than they have in the past. But our goal is still for students to meet legislators at some capacity during the session. And again, there will be more to come on that as we keep moving forward and get a plan in place. Schedule meetings with key legislators. So what do we mean by key? These legislators are who serve in leadership in both the House and the Senate. It will also be members of committees that are relevant to FRYSC and appropriations and revenue, for example, because those committees work on the state budget. So when we say key legislators, we are seeking out particular legislators that we are looking to schedule those meetings with in order for them to hear our message and tell them all the good things. Legislative handouts with impact data. This is an individual handout prepared for each legislator that includes statewide data as well as personal local impact. Again, that is to their area. So it would include both. An information table in the annex. This is at the bottom of the stairs where we'll catch folks traveling through the basement of the annex for them to be able to stop by and us to be able to talk to them personally, but also pick up information as well. And then statewide talking points. We want to be on the same page when we are communicating with legislators, no matter what area we are coming from. We all want to be relaying the same message. So if you are comfortable with talking with legislators, we want to know that. So please let us know like that you have that connection already, and we would love to hear from you. So legislative toolkit, it is on our webpage, and we are going to get to that in a few slides down from that as far as what that looks like and where you're going to be able to find that. So we've got another poll for you right now. So we want to know, how comfortable are you contacting your legislator? This is the awkward moment. I like when you have Jeopardy song playing. again, just where we're at right now, it looks like we're about 50-50. And not comfortable to somewhat, but then comfortable to very comfortable. So that's about right down the middle again for that. So when we talk about the toolkit, we're going to throw in another question. Sorry, I throw in a loop in here for you. Does anybody not know how, or have not navigated the coalition's website? Anybody else? Listen, we're not going to call you out. I'm just going to help you get comfortable with it. Has anybody not been there? Know about it? How to get there?
I'll call myself out. I know about it, but I really haven't been on it much.
Oh, hey, that's okay. That's what we want to know. So we just want everybody to feel comfortable and get comfortable with that, navigating and what that looks like. So this is where you're going to find the advocacy tools that you're going to need, as well as finding your legislator, and what that looks like. It's going to give you like letter templates, tip sheets, all those things under policy, public policy, and advocacy under the coalition website. I highly recommend, if you haven't, go ahead and bookmark this page on your desktop, so that way it's there. And the more you go to it and the more you kind of move around through there, you're going to get more comfortable with navigating and finding the tools that you need for reaching out and making that connection with your legislators.
Tina, I put that website in the chat for folks who need to
Yes.
know where to get started. It's FRYSCKY.org. So
Yes, thank you, Marianne. So yes, if you're in the chat, if you want to go ahead, if you've got double screens, you could already actually go ahead and click that and pull it up as well while we're on the other side. Because the first thing we're going to do is talk about the identifying your legislator. So it's the find your legislator. And what that looks like. So you're going to be able to type in your county for where your school is again. So that's part of it too. So, or this, well, actually you personally, for your constituent, make sure I'm saying this right, Marianne, it's where they live, right?
that is correct. So if you
Okay.
want to find out who is your yours, it goes on your home address. And so you actually just type in your home address into the search and it will auto populate, or it typically will find your address. If it doesn't, then you may want to pick something that's very close to you that might be a more recognizable address. Sometimes in rural areas, addresses aren't always recognized. So I just encourage you to try, you can even try your neighbors or a different house number. And sometimes it'll pull that up, but it won't pull the other. So, but you can type your own personal address. Then if you would like to find out who your legislator is for your school, you can type in the school address. But this search engine recognizes actual street addresses to let you know who your legislator is.
And that's super important to know too, that as a coordinator, your legislator at your school may not be your same legislator as you at your home address, because depending on where you live, you could have two separate legislators for what that looks like from your school to personally. So make sure if you're inviting them to an event that it is your school legislator for that event that you're wanting to invite them to.
And Tina, just to tag in on that, it's also really good to develop relationships with both of those legislators. If your personal legislator and your school legislator are two different people, then it's ideal to create a relationship with both of those, because they're more likely to come to some events if they're at your school and you're not their constituent, but your school is in their constituency, then they're more likely to come to those events. But then if you're asking them to make a decision personally, or you're having to make those lobbying calls that you're doing from on your personal time or from your personal phones, and you're able to say, I'm a constituent of yours, that when you already have that relationship, then both of those are great ways to get those legislators to listen. One side, you may have one that is listening because they have a whole school in their district, but then the other one may be listening to you because you're a personal constituent in their district. So both relationships are important.
Thank you, Mike.
And I have put the web page in the chat where you will find the search engine, it's legislature.ky.gov. And there's actually a tab there that says who's my legislator, and that will take you to this screen here, and then you to the screen you're seeing on the slide, and figure out who your legislator is.
And I'm very fortunate. My legislator is my personal and my school, and of which my legislator was actually even my grandson's t-ball coach this year. And I like that. That makes it super nice because he never fails. Like when we were at the ballpark, he would always say, "Is there anything you guys need? Anything I need to have on my radar?" He always made it a point to ask that. So those personal connection is where you gain that step ahead always is those connections. So moving on into communication templates and tips. Again, this is all on the page. There's already templates there for you. There's already a tip page for you as well on the coalition website page under public policy. And so as we moved into crafting your message, we think about like keyword that are phrases that maybe we are hearing in your audience, the educational world, things that we are hearing, trying to think. So buzzwords, I think last year was whole child, college and career readiness. Is anybody hearing any kind of buzzwords outside of that this year as we're thinking about moving forward? I don't know about y'all, but we don't even start school for another 2 weeks. So people in the building we've not started. Today's been our first day of training. Okay. Think about
Tina, I don't mean to interrupt. One I would say is accountability. I know that Commissioner Fletcher has been talking about accountability and is in the community as well as during committees at the over in interim committees at the legislature. And so accountability is something that we're hearing a lot about through the Department of Education and that new accountability system. So that would be what we would mean when we're talking about buzzwords or phrases. A buzzword I think that we may hear or may not as we get closer to the session could be accountability.
When I think about a time during the last year you feel made a strong impact with the student, family, or program, these are all ways about thinking about crafting your message when we're talking about reaching out to your legislators. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share that may have been an impact story? Anything of empowerment that could be shared with a legislator? Okay.
Tina, I'll throw an example in there for you, just to get people thinking. You know, I had a student last year who was struggling with attendance and behavior and several things like that. And we were able to create a program around that student to where someone was giving her the opportunity to meet with them once a day. And it was a check-in. It wasn't a check-in, check-out formal situation, but it was really just an opportunity for that student to well, for full disclosure, the student had a pet rat that they brought to school, and we ended up keeping that rat in my office. And every day, once a day, the student got to come visit the rat and feed it and give it water and things of that nature. And it was amazing to watch that student as she was going through that process. We actually have data that showed that as she built relationships, because she had to get the secretary to let her into buzz her into our offices, and then the guidance counselor and the guidance counselor secretary were all in the same suite. And so she built relationships with the 5 of us. And each of us were taking turns when she come in. Like my job was just to make sure that she got to see the rat and she got to feed it and things like that. But the guidance counselor was talking to her about behavior. She walked through the office. The secretary who was buzzing her into the office, her job was to always talk about attendance. And he was like, "So glad to see you here today. We missed you yesterday." And long story short, we saw an increase in attendance of about 50%. From the first 9 weeks for the first semester to the second semester. And then we saw a 75% decrease in behavior issues in this student. and from the first semester to the second semester. And this was all data that we were able to collect and actually share in our impact reports for this year to show that through having those building those relationships with students and having those people there to work with the student, we were able to impact that student's attendance and behavior.
And I love it. And as he said, he had the data. So don't forget the data. Like that is the most important piece of that, like that Mike just shared, that you want to include in that when you are crafting your message is, how did that impact, and that data being part of that. So they see the end result. Again, we'll kind of just take a pause if anybody has any questions. Okay, we'll move on to building relationships with legislators. And a lot of this is at some capacity we have already touched on throughout the presentation thus far. But again, it's just connection strategies and making those connections. How can you make those connections? Where can you make those connections? And again, it can be at the ball field. If you have kids, in church, any kind of other agency or maybe group that you're a part of, accessing information. The process of contacting your legislators, community involvement, visiting the Capitol. Again, I always think it's important to get out and get to the Capitol at some capacity. Again, while we were there last year, our legislator invited us up to his office randomly. He said, "Have y'all ever seen it?" No, we have not. So he's like, "Come up and take a look." So me and another coordinator here from my school district was able to go up and just sit and just talk in general, nothing about, FRYSC at the moment, because there wasn't, but again, it was just making that connection outside of the, what we might need in the future. So. So this one pager that you see here has been created by our wonderful Mandy. I'm almost sure she's the one that did that. And it is also on our coalition page as well. And again, these are all ways, if you've been to NCO recently, these are all ways that we make sure that you're aware, like send a birthday, holiday card, thank you note, invite them to your center or school event. Even if they don't come, always invite them, even, always. They do see it and they do recognize it. They may just not be able to respond. Hang this flyer somewhere visible to your center. Use it as a connection checklist. It serves as a jumping off point for creating your communication plan for the year. So I think it is important, to have this visible so you can see it, just as a reminder to always have this in the forefront when you are thinking about us going into session this year. If you send a newsletter, I don't know if people still send them or not. Everybody uses social media so much more. But put them on that mailing list and let them get that. You never know when they might be bored and have it on their desk and actually pick up and read it. You might be surprised, actually. So share success stories as always, and educate. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Michael, Marianne, I'm sure too, anybody at any capacity at any time that you feel that you just have a question, and always, there's never a dumb question. I always say that too. If you don't know, you don't know. So always ask. Oh, and it is question time. Again, ahead of myself, just one slide.
Tina, I'd like to add one more thing if I could,
Yes.
please. And that's just to encourage anybody that, especially folks who are just really new at getting to building these relationships with legislators, and you're not really sure you've used a template to craft a letter, and you're not really sure if your letter is just right, or if you want to have set up a meeting with your legislator, and you're just really not sure, how to get there, what to do, feel free to reach out to the coalition's public policy committee. And if you want us to preview or proofread a letter of introduction or something you're sending to your legislator, we're happy to help you with that. We've got folks who will, if you want to if you want to bring a group of coordinators from your district to meet with all your legislators, we're happy to have somebody from the public policy committee to go meet you in Frankfurt and show you where the offices are and help you get familiar with the Capitol and things like that. Your committee's there to help you. So please, please, please reach out to the committee and let us know how we can help you be more comfortable with this. Because once you're comfortable with it, it makes a world of difference and what happens when we do calls to action and things like that. Because the more people who have personal relationships with their legislators, the more successful we are.
Yes. And I think we have Liz Welch on here as well today, and she is our new public policy chair. So again, she can be beneficial to you as well if you ever need anything. She is another person that you can reach out to.
Yes, I'm available anytime.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we will move to our next slide, which is public policy nominations. If you have somebody that you know that could be beneficial to our public policy committee, we'd love for you to nominate. We do have a seat that is available or open, not available, that's opened that we will be looking to fill here in October. So we are taking nominations at this current time for interviews in September. So if you have or know somebody, or maybe it's you, I don't know, that you are just strong in this area, we would love to have you.
And just to add to that, again, even if you're not strong in this area, but you have a strong desire to gain knowledge in this area, this is a great opportunity to nominate yourself for that and to get a real hands-on, firsthand experience with dealing with legislators. And maybe you'll be the next public policy committee chairman at some point in time after you learn all the ins and outs of it. So if you don't have to have a solid ground in legislative advocacy work right now, but if you have a desire to learn more about it, this is a great opportunity for that.
Yes, we will walk you through it all.
We all started without a lack of knowledge. I think we just all learned over time because we've enjoyed the work and we felt like it was important. So don't ever feel like that you don't know enough to be a part of it, because you know as much as we did when we all started, I feel like. So don't be ashamed or worried about jumping in or asking questions. We've all been there.
And I'm truly still learning myself. So, and it's been wonderful to have these veterans alongside me to still keep learning as we go. So, and you just become a family. It's wonderful. And then, so moving to wrap us up here, I hope that we now have defined advocacy and lobbying, and that you do know the difference between grassroots and direct lobbying, and how they coincide and how they are important to one another for that message to come across and be impactful. The sharing of the FRYSC Coalition's advocacy and lobbying efforts, and what that's going to look like moving forward through this school year, that of all the things we've got moving into place. Where and how to use the legislative toolkit, and also just learning your role as a coordinator and what that looks like for you and how you can be working behind the scenes as well, even if you're not on the public policy committee or the board. You still are very important and vital to making sure our efforts do not go unnoticed, as numbers are always the thing.
if there's any of these items that you still are unsure about or you might have a question about, we would love to hear your questions and have an opportunity to answer those, because I'm sure if you have that question, then somebody else does. And so we're happy to take this time to answer any questions you have about what we've presented today or what Tina has presented today. Tina did a great job. Thank you.
I can breathe again.
You're welcome to come off mute or drop any questions in the chat if you have them.
So since we don't have any questions about this, who has not started school yet? Anybody that's not started other than me? Mike, you not either? Okay, yes. No,
We don't start till September 2nd. It's our first day for Christmas.
somebody starts tomorrow. Carrie starts tomorrow, so
We started today.
started today. Yes, our county school started today.
Yeah, we started today.
Happy first day.
I'm curious, why do you guys start so late? Is that normal?
For us, yes, we added 8 minutes to our school day about 3 years ago. And so we don't start till the last Tuesday in August, and we're still out by May 20th.
Love that.
Yes. So we do the last Tuesday in August. So that way we start with a 4-day week going into Labor Day, a 4-day week. So it's 2 weeks before we have a full 5-week day or 5-day week. For all of us old folks that need, gradual adjustment back into a full work week.